Customization is one of the main draws of TF2. Whether it's getting just the right cosmetic effect that can end up being instantly recognizable, finding just the right unusual effect that really makes you stand out, or customizing your in-game settings to make the game look like dog shit so that you can get 12 more frames per second, it's an undeniable aspect of what makes the game so appealing to so many people. But there's one more way to personalize your gameplay experience even more, and that's by adding a war paint to your weapons. My stance on war paints and the skins that preceded them has always been a mostly ambivalent, they're alright, but some of them are really standout and make me want to go out of my way to get a weapon with that pattern on it. Now, outside of the first batch of war paints that released alongside Jungle Inferno, all of the war paint cases have been entirely community created. And the subject of the declining quality of community workshop content is its own discussion to be had, and war paints are definitely a part of it. For Halloween, I consider it to be a mixed bag with plenty of good stuff in there. It's kind of like actual trick-or-treating. Sometimes you get some crap like Whoppers, which just tastes like someone covered a sphere of chalk in substandard chocolate, or you just get obscene amounts of fucking candy corn for some ungodly reason. Okay, that one's actually not bad. But sometimes you get an Airhead or some Reese's, and realize that they're still good in the world, and you don't need to burn down every Spirit Halloween store in a 5-mile radius. On the whole, for every horror holiday or spirit of Halloween, there's an electroshocked and a skull study. For every Gordy Green or candy coated, there's a Death Deluxe or a Hell Driver. For every Neon Ween or Sarsaparilla sprayed, you get Swashbuckled or Kiln and Conquer. And for everything that isn't Sunriser, you get Sunriser and Sacred Slayer. But winter war paints usually aren't so much of an even split. If anything, a war paint looking good at all is the exception. Not the standard, and definitely not the rule. Smithsmith's camo is nice, Alpine is okay, and Saccharin Striped is pretty good, but almost everything else is either so bad it's painful to look at, or else incredibly generic and uninspired. And this is such a shock considering where winter war paint cases got started. In the winter of 2017, we got the first new community-made war paint case, and it was fucking amazing. Now, to be clear, I'm not a fan of every war paint in this case, but the majority of them I would consider of vastly higher quality than most of the war paints we've gotten in the past few years. I'm not the biggest fan of Polar Surprise, Dovetailed, Hana, or Cosmic Calamity, but I still have to concede that they're way above the quality of so much of the stuff we've gotten lately. Polar Surprise has really well done custom-made artwork. It's in a fittingly cartoonish style with some nice touches, like an eye patch on some of the polar bears to represent the Demo Man, and some rain unicorns to give it that extra bit of TF2 flair. And the color composition is very fitting for the game. Dovetailed is a similar story. I do think the light pink is too monochromatic, since there isn't much to break it up outside of the palish white texture and the dove stickers, but the fact that the pink isn't an eye-searing neon, and the doves are hand-drawn, makes this a very acceptable medic girlfriend war paint. The blue variant is a similar story. The tone is a bit too pastel and looks a bit babyish, so it's not my thing, but it could be a lot worse. Hana does a better job at breaking up the flat pink texture with a darker pink main texture that has the flower pattern on it. I do still think it's a bit much, and something like the wood shades that Polar Surprise or Damascus and Mahogany have would be much appreciated in place of pink on top of pink. But it's still good for those who want a pink gun with flowers on it. That's just not me though. I think the blue version isn't actually half bad though. Cosmic Calamity came riding off the coattails of Starcrossed, which ended up being one of the more popular war paints in that case when it came out. And I think it doesn't do the job as well. The Fong shaded glitter is a nice touch, as is the more plain dark purple texture, which I actually rather like, and the hand-drawn artwork. The colors and concept just aren't my thing. From what I understand, this is still a fairly popular one though, so I'll let the people who like it keep liking it. And those are the only 4 that I just flat out don't like. Everything else I either think is good or amazing. Even the mercenary grade skins, for the most part, I think are some of the best war paints in the game. Hazard Warning is such a perfectly executed simple concept that years later, workshoppers are still trying to imitate it with mixed results. The concrete and hazard stripes go so well together, and the texture work is just fantastic. The concrete has this almost marbled look to it that adds so much compared to just a flat gray texture, and really makes it stand out. Damascus and Mahogany is a massive fan favorite, though one I think could have used a tertiary texture, but that's just me. The things it looks good on, like the knife and scattergun, more than make up for the weapons I feel are a bit lacking. There's some war paints that I think look good on just about everything, and while I don't think this is one of them, I feel like the ones that it does well, it does really, really well. Cabin Fevered I think is just good, but even though I think it's one of the weaker war paints in the set, it's still miles ahead of the vast majority of winter war paints that have been released since. The reference to The Shining is very nice, and the colors and patterns on the carpet texture look great, but the white wood is what loses points for me. It's just a bit too bright and ends up looking a bit off. Bomber Soul is a great concept whose only fault is that it came out too early for orientation locking certain aspects to the war paint, so the star emblems and stripes get cut off a bit too often, but even with that concession, it's still pretty great, with nice colors and really good textures. Alien Tech is just cool. It would have been so easy to go for a bright neon green, but the shade of green selected fits the tone perfectly, and has a really nice pattern backing it up to boot. It's a great mix of a cool texture, along with some more flat patterns to break up the monotony, and the result will make any weapon in the game look like it's sci-fi. Doesn't matter if it's a sword or a knife or anything like that. And god damn does this look good on the weapons that are already sci-fi. The Medigun and the Rescue Ranger, absolutely beautiful. Not a single weapon looks bad with this war paint as far as I'm concerned. And then there's my baby, Geometrical Teams, my favorite war paint in the game. I guess that kind of spoils things, but I don't care. This one looks great on everything too. It's incredibly simple. It's basically just team-colored camo, but it executes it so well. I find that the beauty in it comes from the simplicity. It takes a simple idea and knocks it out of the park compared to so many other recent war paints that are so goddamn cluttered, I can't even tell what's going on here. There is, however, a flaw. On certain seeds especially, you might notice the seams of the teams. Unfortunately, there's a big four corners-like seam that can run through the war paint, and if it's noticeable, it's noticeable. My minigun, for instance, has it running right on the end of the barrel, and my airstrike is even more extreme, with all four seams being visible right below the stat clock. And my shotgun has all four seams visible on the pump, and yeah, it's kinda like the FedEx arrow in that once you see it, you can't really unsee it. The creator of the war paint, God fucking bless you by the way, has even tried to get this fixed, but nothing's come of it since Valve never implemented the fix. Valve, come on, don't let this man's work go to waste just because it's been a few years since you added the war paint. We'd all greatly appreciate it. You fixed the grody wood coloring on Swashbuckled, you can give us this much at least. And those are just the mercenary grade skins. The worst grade has arguably some of the best skins in the game, and the higher tiers are still nothing to scoff at. Uranium is another slam dunk on concept and execution that looks great on everything. In the same way that Alien Tech makes all of your weapons look sci-fi, this makes all of your weapons look radioactive. And before the skin starts to slough away from my hands, I'm gonna give it 2 thumbs up. Neo Tokyo. Why are people still trying to make Neon Genesis Evangelion war paints when this one knocked it out of the fucking park almost 6 years ago? It suffers from a similar problem to Damascus and Mahogany that I think a tertiary texture on both war paints would have fixed, but I'd argue it's the superior war paint of the two. It looks good on most weapons. Mosaic. I think this one is kind of underrated because the colors and patterns work seriously well together, and can give your weapon this almost African look to it at times, and I'm a big fan of it. I'm not sure if I'd say it looks great on everything, but it looks great on a lot of stuff. And I wish all assassin grade war paints looked this good. I'd love to unbox one of these one day. Mother fucking jazzy. Gaudy? Yes. Tacky? Absolutely. Do I still love it? Hell yeah, I do. Now, I do think it's a bit overrated, and I feel like a lot of people who ended up unboxing this crate wanted this one just so they could flex on everyone else while ignoring all the gold right next to it. But I mean, I get it. It's the funny cup pattern. Hell, I wish a lot of the tacky, gaudy war paints we've gotten lately at least had that much inspiration behind them. This is definitely one of those war paints that breaks a lot of design conventions, but everyone loves it so much that they're just kind of willing to let it slide. And finally, we have Miami Element. Jazzy for people who don't want their eyes seared out. I honestly think this and Jazzy should have swapped grades, but this is one I'm okay with. It's definitely not my favorite of the case, but of all the brightly colored elite grade war paints we've gotten, I'd say it's definitely one of the better ones. The purple is nicely toned down to be an almost indigo, the pattern is simple but appealing, and the overall color composition looks nice without being obnoxious. It's simple, and I think it's good, just not my favorite. So many amazing skins, or at the very least good ones, that completely overshadow the mediocre ones, and the only reason that people don't unbox more of these is because we're running the fuck out. It's unclear just how many are out there, but with a little over 160 on the community market, 16 on Backpack.tf's classified listings, and less than 40 on Marketplace.tf, we're looking at an endangered species here. And I just unboxed quite a few of them myself. And I know this video is going to inflate the prices even more, which I apologize in advance for. I'm not doing this for the sake of my own profit. All this is going to do is make it harder for me to unbox these or buy the skins in the future. Valve made a case that was so good and has become so sought after that now it's more than 3 times as expensive as the key you'll use to unbox it. In a way, that's a shame because it means that unless you have the keys to lay down, the vast majority of people just aren't going to get to enjoy these skins. Certainly not in strange factory new quality, and they represent some of, if not most of, the best war paints this game has to offer. Hell, I feel downright blessed that I managed to unbox a strange minimal wear alien tech, and it's such a rare skin now that I'm not sure what I even want to use it on, since I probably won't get another chance to get one. Especially after the prices get inflated by this video. So, that was kind of a lot, huh? You might be wondering what the point of even talking about this is, considering this Warpaint case came out almost 6 years ago. Well, there isn't much of one besides what the fuck happened? Okay, Winter 2018 came and went with no Warpaint case, even though there is an unused one in the game's files for that year. This is also the same update that added the Millennial Mercenary, which is the worst fucking cosmetic in the entire game, so I guess this update was just cursed from the start. Then flash forward to Winter 2019, and suddenly, every single Warpaint is overly Christmas themed. Do you need a refresher on how many Warpaints were explicitly themed towards Christmas in the 2017 case? 1. But then we got Seriously Snowed, Igloo, Gift Wrapped, Alpine, Snow Covered, Sleigh in Style, Frost Ornamented, Smithmas Village, Smithmas Camo, and Winterland Wrapped, which are just names you have to say in order to figure, oh wow, these sure are themed around Christmas and winter. And then Smithmas of 2020 was even worse, as if we didn't have it bad enough in 2020. Once again, everything is either blatantly based around Christmas or winter, and once again, there's only one that I find to be of decent quality, and that's Saccharine Striped. Everything else is either gaudy as hell, generic and unappealing, or else embarrassingly low quality. And I guess it was so bad that they once again decided to give winter war paints a miss in 2021, and only left us with one of the most infamously ridiculed hat crates in the game's history. And 2022 was a similar story, but at least we had a good hat crate to go along with that one, mostly. And we started so strong too. So I guess the real point of this is, Valve, if you're ever listening, which sometimes I feel like you are since you fixed the Rap Assassin and added Rocco and Sunriser after I mentioned liking them on stream, just take some cues from Winter 2017 for this year's Warpaint case, okay? We're gonna be getting our first unthemed Warpaint case since 2017, and that's huge. It means we might be able to reach the same level of quality as Winter 2017 again. But Valve, you've gotta pick the right Warpaints. It's only beneficial for everyone. We all get Warpaints that make us happy, and you get the money from people who will unbox these crates, and we might just get another case where the crates become more expensive than the keys because they're just so goddamn popular. There's some really standout war paints on the workshop right now, some that have been around for years but left to rot, and I would love it if we could take some cues from these creators and bring us back to the quality level of the best war paint case in the game. Also, let us put war paints on the fucking Dragon's Fury already. What, you think all that unboxing was just B-roll? Hell no. That's for taxes. Now that I'm a YouTuber, and I can put this in a video, I can write off my gambling addiction as a business expense. That's $15 I'm never getting back. But it's $15 the IRS ain't getting their fucking hands on.